pleasure to be here with you. I'm Paola Andrea Toro, international journalist and anchor at RCN News. In conjunction with the Vice-presidency, the Swedish Embassy in Colombia brings to you this webinar today called Women in Tech. Here we will address
en
the
tecnología. Hoy miraremos las distintas oportunidades de las mujeres que desean o que se embarcan en sus carreras
digitalized and also interconnected world. We really hope that women and men are excited about working towards greater inclusion in these areas. To talk about this topic, we are accompanied in an introductory part with the Presidential Advisor for Equality for Women in Colombia, Heidi Gallo Santos, and right live from Sweden, the Minister of Foreign Trade, Anna Hallberg. Then we will talk about the equality in technological areas from different points of view. For this, I would like to present Catalina Irurita Gomez, Marketing, Communications, and Corporate Relations Vice President for the Latin America North region at Ericsson, and Kristen Adelson, Head of Strategy at Saab Aeronautics. Also, we have Susanna Mesa Graham. She's the co-founder of Aldeon, a Swedish investment company responsible for financing startups in the technology and also in video games industries. Galema Yola Godelo is here with us too. She is the president of the Association of Information Technology and Communications Operators in Colombia, ASOTIC. And we have a man here, William Corredor, CEO of Open International, a software company. So welcome to all of you. And with this introduction, I give the floor to Colombian Presidential Advisor for Women Equity, Heidi Gallo Santos. Good morning.
Paola, muchísimas gracias. Muy buenos días para todas las personas que nos acompañan.
Thank you very much, Paola. A warm welcome for the people here with us, Women in Tech. I would like to greet you on behalf of the Vice President of Colombia, Mrs. Ramirez, who cannot be here with us due to her very tight agenda. But she is the one who very enthusiastically, and our dear Ambassador, Helena Storm, proposed to do this event. She actually said that they wanted to do this event because it's part of our policy of gender equality, a policy that wants to generate more opportunities for more than half of the population in Colombia. I would also like to thank the Ministry of Commerce, Ms. Anna Hallberg, and all the representatives that are here with us today from very important companies, which are without a doubt leaders not only in technology, each of them in their segment, but also in equality policies in order to close the digital gap and the gender gap. Companies like Saab, Aldeon, Ericsson, Sotic, and our company of software in Colombia, Open International. In this few introductory moments, I would like to introduce or to present my talk in three parts. First of all, where is the world of work going in this era of the fourth industrial revolution? Secondly, in that future, which is no longer future, it's present, where do women in Colombia stand and where do women in the world stand? Because as you know, we share similar challenges, closing the digital gap and the gender gap. And finally, mentioning the policies that under the government of President Duque and Vice President Ramirez, we have been adopting in order for Colombia to be living up to the expectations of the fourth industrial revolution. Regarding the first point, where
COVID es la
work is heading to.
Y yo sobre eso quisiera comentar recientemente salió menos de un mes el índice de brechas de género.
Recent report less than a month ago, the gender gap that yearly the World Economic Forum presents, where we basically saw that due to COVID-19, 85% of corporations in a survey that they carried out, they are doing digitalization processes in all their lines of business. And more than half of those corporations are carrying out automation processes. What does that mean? That means that we start generating big opportunities in areas of the fourth industrial revolution. Why? Because we will lose certain jobs, but obviously we will have a very wide array of new options that we must avail from and make the most. That takes me to the second question. Where do women stand in order to make the most of these new trends, of these new opportunities in the world? I go back to the reports from the World Economic Forum, and I think it's very important to mention the following. They ask a question: how long would it take to close the gaps between men and women, specifically in terms of access to better and more economic opportunities? And for 2021, the answer of the World Economic Forum says that humanity, that is why I would like to emphasize humanity, it's going to take 267 years to actually level the playing field between men and women in order for women to access the same kind of opportunities as men. Mainly, the reason that they lay out is the lack of digital appropriation in terms of knowledge of the fourth industrial revolution by women. Here, I would like to mention a very important data, which I think fits our purpose. The World Economic Forum started working with Nikkei, one of the main companies, and they asked themselves the following question. They identified the 95 jobs which will have a very high demand during the next decade. And they clustered, or they made certain groups or clusters. Data analytics came in first, engineering, cloud computing, marketing, culture, in order not to mention a very vast list of jobs. Of those 9 segments that they came up with, only in 2 of those segments, women actually occupy a strong position. It has to do with content production, culture, and people, which are the ones that need the least disruptive technology. In the other 6 professions, women are a minority, and we have a very low participation in what has to do with AI and with machine learning, with data analytics, with engineering, and with cloud computing. That is a general overview. And how are we doing in Latin America and in Colombia? Another very important institution, the Inter American Development Bank, in 2019 also carried out a thorough analysis in terms of the future of work for women. And in that research, what they said was that in the next following 5 years, women in Latin America were at risk of losing their jobs, up to a 30% loss, due to exactly the fact that we women were not studying, were not embarking on areas of technology, which are part of the STEM areas. In order to give you a proportion, in Latin America, when 35% of women decide to embark to major in STEM, in men, it goes up to 51%. And going to Colombia, in Colombia, we have that a proportion as well. In my country, of the total of people that access higher education, only 17% of women actually decide to major in one of the STEM careers versus 35% of men. In that context, I would like to take the minutes that I have in order to show you what we're doing, because we have an option regarding policy, and it's turning Colombia into one of the countries of Latin America that can actually spearhead the fourth industrial revolution. I wanted to tell you that in Colombia, we have the fourth center of the fourth industrial revolution at a global level in an initiative that WEF has actually tried to boost in order to have some common ground where we examine, work with the academia, with the corporations, with civil society, in order to actually understand and assess how disruptive technologies improve life. This Center for the Fourth Industrial Revolution is a facility. It is located in Medellin, and this is a project that has to do with generating gender neutrality in developing AI for Latin America. That is one of our first initiatives. Secondly, under the framework of the reactivation strategy that the government is currently embarked on in order to generate jobs and tackle the difficult economic situation that COVID has brought. At the core, training in coding. Training in coding is at the core of those policies. In the next 14 months, we expect to train 100,000 people in coding computer skills. Our goal is to at least have a 40% of them being women. The third initiative that I would like to mention, 1.5 years ago in Colombia, we created the Ministry of Science, Technology, and Innovation. At that ministry, we created a fund which is called More Women, More Equality, More Science. This fund, which is regulated by private law bylaws, is aimed at finding resources nationally, internationally, in order to incentivize girls, women in the faraway regions of Colombia, in order for them, first of all, to learn English, in order to be able to access the world and to access knowledge, and secondly, to motivate them into going into one of these kind of careers. And the third initiative, and this is where I want to thank the way in which our ambassador, Helena Storm, has actually helped us with this, is that we have created the STEM Women Network. This is an initiative led by the Vice President of Colombia, which is the objective. I'm going to tell you, in Colombia, we had 32 departments of provinces. The goal is that in each one of those 32 departments or provinces, we are trying to find, or we're finding, women who are role models, who are leaders in STEM, and they become an ambassador. And together with the government institutions, together with the most representative corporations, with the multinationals, and with national companies, and with the regional universities in each province or department, we are currently implementing a campaign in order to strengthen that seed and that dream of more women, more region, more girls in STEM careers and professions. We want to invite the ambassador. We want to invite the government of Sweden. We want to invite the corporations here today to become part of this initiative of women leaders in STEM, in order to have in Colombia much more women who are actually motivated since their young years to go into these kind of career and future. That is what we're working on, and we are full throttle on track to reach our goal in order for women to be digital citizens and actually make the most of all the opportunities that the fourth industrial revolution has brought here in Colombia or anywhere in the world. So, Madam Ambassador, thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much for organizing this Women in Tech seminar. I repeat, this is at the core of the gender initiatives of the government of Colombia. We actually expect to have a very fruitful conversation, and also our invitation and my invitation is to try to find common ground in order to work together and carry out joint initiatives and actually make the most of these advantages. Thank you very much for this invitation.
Thank you very much, advisor, for your intervention. So let me rescue a little bit of topics that you have spoke. So women are minority in some areas. So how can we work together to change? Only a 17% of women decided to work or major in STEM careers in Colombia. So there's a lot of work to do. There's a lot of things to do. And the invitation is to find joint programs so we can move on in this area. So now the Swedish Foreign Trade Minister, Anna Hallberg, thank you very much for joining us from Sweden at this event. You have the floor.
Thank you very much, Paula. And thank you all for having me here today on this very important issue. And I thank the President's Counselor on Gender Equality, Ms. Gallo, for this very interesting views. And I also congratulate you in Colombia and your government for this very impressive development in these indeed so important areas. And one topic that I really, a lot of topics, of course, but one topic that could really agree on is to reach out in the country to the provinces and find ambassadors for it, because it's so important not only to have the large cities and so on and the capital in these discussions, but we need to move out in our entire countries. And I really take that idea with me to also find ambassadors in these very important issues. Today's webinar about women in tech, it's really testifies, I think, our mutual commitment between Sweden and Colombia to deepen the ties and joint action together towards an increased gender equality and the creation of innovative, dynamic, and sustainable economies. And for Sweden, it is indeed obvious that an international cooperation and partnerships with countries like Colombia is really the way forward. And we can together find a way to build back better and to put these important issues at the center. A number of the panelists today belong to a distinct and exclusive group, I would say, women with success within the tech sector. And I hope that they will share guiding examples from their interesting careers that will inspire women in Colombia and women in Sweden to follow their heart's desire and to dare to embark on a professional career devoted to technology. And the challenge to improve gender equality within the tech sector, I think, is vital to our societies and how we can develop further in the right direction. Gender equality is not only an objective in itself, but it's also essential for achieving more or less any other objective. And in the field of foreign policy, we see clear links between gender equality and more prosperous, peaceful, healthy, and sustainable societies. But this is equally valid for the technology sector. And if the tech sector doesn't succeed in attracting and including skilled women in engineering, AI, and digitalization, they really run the risk for reinforcing gender stereotypes and also counteracting gender equality. And in the heart of this matter really lies basically, it's all about a challenge for democracy as a fundamental. And the Swedish government has committed to build a society in which women and men, boys and girls, can live their lives to the fullest potential. And the objective of Swedish gender equality policy is for women and men to have the same opportunities, rights, and responsibilities in all areas of life, family and professional. And in 2014, Sweden was the first country to introduce a feminist foreign policy. And this really means that gender equality is central to the government's priorities in decision-making and in resource allocation. Women and men must have the same power to shape society and to shape their own lives. And in Sweden, around 60% of the students in higher education are women, and 40%, of course, then are men. but I think this is an interesting figure going back some decades ago. And this has been the scenario since, I think, in the middle of the 70s. So, and in the field of natural science, however, I think it's about 50% of women in engineering and just staggering 35%. That is quite a lot, actually, compared to a couple of years ago. But where do these women, where do they move on to? How do we see them in high-level positions within the tech sector? Because we can see that at the student level more and more, but do we also see them at a higher level in tech companies and in startups and in large companies in leading positions? I really have a question mark there, and we need to see that also at all levels. I think we have a policy that lies at the heart of my work and our strategy of gender mainstreaming. And this is absolutely crucial to make change. I think the strategy is a way to ensuring from the Swedish government that all policy making has a gender equality perspective, and not at least in the academia, of course. All public sector universities and university colleges have been tasked with producing a plan outlining their intended gender mainstreaming efforts and how gender equality will be integrated and become part of their regular activities. And these gender mainstreaming plans are being implemented throughout the education system in our country. And I think many actors need to be involved in this work. It's not only the academia, it's the municipalities, higher education institutions, of course, but also government bodies, and not at least the business sector. That will, of course, be very much responsible for taking these students on and giving them equal conditions in their professional careers. Several programs have been launched in recent years in order to turn the tide, really. And we have what we call the Technology Leap in Sweden. It's an internship program run by the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences, allowing upper secondary school graduates to get practical experience with some of Sweden's most renowned organizations and specifically targeting female students. And we also have a program designed to involve more teenage girls, and that is at much of an early stage in the younger part of their lives, in a program that is providing them with fun and creative opportunities to explore and learn more about the technology and natural sciences. I think the Swedish feminist movement has been, not only think, but we know that the Swedish feminist movement has been ongoing for more than 100 years. And its first landmark achievement may have been women's right to vote for the first time in the year of 1921. It sounds like a long time, 100 years, but it's not that far away since women were allowed to actually vote. And I think it's, of course, there have been considerable improvements since that. But we must see that, and we have one of the world's most generous legislation for paternal leave and from work and so on in Sweden, shared between both parents. But there is a significant also evidence that gender equality would greatly increase growth and the global economy and gross world product if women can be more involved in the tech sector, and women can also be at the highest level, at the top level, also in the business community. Finally, Swedish companies in Colombia. Well, we have about 90 Swedish companies in Colombia in a broad range of sectors today, including tech. And as in Swedish private sector in general, these companies are actively trying to and are improving female participation in their businesses and in their operations. And I think that's also how we can work together. As I said, we from the political side and from the governments, together with the business community, we have representatives here today, brilliant representatives from business community that also can discuss how can we work together to involve women also at a higher level. I think from the Swedish experience and from me also coming from a very long background in the business sector, I think that to increase female participation generally in the labor market has indeed a very high potential to increase, as I said from the beginning, economic growth. And for a country like Colombia, this implies a great opportunity to increase the speed of the economic reactivation after the pandemic, just as for Sweden. And this is even more in the case when considering that women have been particularly, as we see in many cases, adversely affected in the labor market. At least in Sweden, some of the working forces and parts of the sectors where women are very active in the Swedish labor market has been very hard hit by the pandemic, but also at the household and in the private sector. To reap all these benefits that we now see in front of us, it is important to also increase female participation in male-dominated sector as the tech industry, where many jobs are likely to appear in the future. More and more jobs are likely to appear in the tech sector. And therefore, we want to see more women there, and we want to see them there today. And before ending, I would like to take the opportunity to welcome the Network for Mentorship to Women in STEM, created by the Colombian government. I think this is an excellent example of concrete action to increase female participation in the tech sector. And from Sweden, together with our companies present in Colombia, we are eager to explore more. How can we contribute together to this initiative? I am absolutely convinced, and also listening to you, Ms. Gallo, that together Sweden and Colombia can contribute to better accommodate skilled women to the tech sector and in our societies and companies. And we can also maybe lead by example to other countries and to the rest of the world. So thank you so much for having me here today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Minister of Foreign Trade. I would like to highlight these words of you that you said before. Women in Sweden and Colombia follow their heart desires. So with your speeches, we now start the discussion panel. And first, why not start with a positive outlook regarding the opportunities of women in technological areas? Well, the gender gap in employment in the technology sector is impossible to ignore, but however, you have all gained access and participation in the sector. And indeed, William, you have also seen progress in this regard. So let's start talking about your experience. And when Catalina, you have the floor.
Paola, thank you very much. First of all, I want to thank the embassy and ambassador for this invitation today. I feel really honored to represent women that work in the sector that due to the pandemic has made visible the importance of telecommunications and closes the digital divide that we have in the region, not only in Colombia, but in all Latam. As you said, gender gap is impossible to ignore, but I believe that the examples and models of leadership is the way to close this gap. And I'm glad to see that there are more women in ICT leadership positions so they can inspire girls with their careers and create a precedent for women to stop being considered a minority and become a pillar in the sector. This is super important for us. It's also very important to make women who work in STEM, in particular in ICT, visible for the society. The perfect example for this is a woman I really love. It's Heidi Lamar, who is another woman in ICT who often goes unnoticed in history. But her inventions lay the foundation for developing technology such as Bluetooth or Wi-Fi, and that's something no one knows. Around the world is weird to see that. And Heidi Lamar achieved even more impressive. It was more impressive to see that considering that she was practically self-taught. She didn't have any formal university degree in science and engineering. So definitely we can't inspire women if things are invisible for the society we live in. It's important to awake from a young age the interest of Colombian girls to study STEM and inspire them by showing them that they have a place in the sector, that they can be part of the sector of technology. So that's my experience working in this sector, Paola.
Catalina, yes, as you said, inspire is the key to close this gender gap. And now it's time to know about William's experience. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah, thank you very much. Well, if one were to judge gender inequality by this panel, I definitely feel like a minority here. Well, the truth is that there are so many opportunities in tech right now that for women and men, by the way, that the opportunity is just limitless. I mean, figures are very difficult to come by, but people say that there are about 5 million shortage of engineers in the whole world. And there are also figures that said that there is a gap of about 100,000 engineers in Colombia, which means that either women or men, anybody who studies engineering has a guaranteed job. So any girl that goes into engineering will have a guaranteed job, which is very good news for everybody. It may not close the gender inequality, as you can see on universities that a lot more men actually register for STEM careers than women. But the reality is that the demand is so high that anybody that goes into this field has a guaranteed job. So it's an incredible opportunity for women, because if governments and the private industry promotes the women going into STEM careers, without a doubt, this gap can be helped. But not only the gap can be helped in terms of women and men, but the unemployment can be helped a lot. We still find a lot of people studying, careers outside of STEM, where sometimes it's difficult to find a job. And my recommendation is, let's try to promote STEM all the way from kindergarten, so that we have more people. As it is right now in the industry, and this seems to be pretty much the same around the world, about 35% of people that work in engineering are women and 65% are men. Yeah, it's a big difference. It's a 30% gap between the two, but it's more related to the scarcity of resources than a difference in talent between women and men. So I leave it there for now, and we can comment on more numbers further down.
William, thank you so much for joining this women panel and also with your participation. And as you said, let's highlight this. Anyone that comes to STEM careers has a job. So that's a good thing to know. Susana, now is your turn. Thank you so much for being here with us.
Hola, buenos días. So I would like to share a little bit about my journey. So I'm here as an investor, and I invest in startups in the tech and games industry. But I actually spent 14 years in the games industry building one of Sweden's bigger games companies from the ground up. And so I've seen firsthand what type of growth can come from when you start including different perspectives, different widening your talent pool if you want to be relevant on a global market, if you want to be able to compete on a global market, if you want to continue to innovate and grow your market shares. You need to have diverse teams. There are studies shown on this. The previous speakers talked about the profitability of doing it, of having diverse teams. So that has been my experience. When I joined in 2004, I was very often the only woman in the room. And that has, over the years, changed quite a lot, not just in terms of the amount of women, but also in terms of wanting to have more diverse teams. And so I think we still have a long ways to go, but it is improving. And for me personally, the way I've done it is I've used that as my unique selling point. It's opened a lot of doors for me, both when it comes to investments now and getting interesting deal flow, but in the previous as well, getting really interesting business opportunities because I was able to provide a different perspective. So I think I want to echo what the previous speaker said, is that there's a lot of opportunities in tech and in games. And I'd like more women to get involved and also see that opportunity and take advantage of that opportunity.
Susana, thank you so much. Well, being the only woman in the room is the thing we have to work on. We really have to be many, many more in the rooms, and we have to open more doors, more windows for gender equality. Thank you so much. And now let's hear Anne Kristen experience. Thank you so much.
Hello, and thank you. I'm happy to represent security and defense here today. And I also want to share something from my background, and it's more or less on the same note as the previous speaker, as Susanna. I joined the industry a bit earlier than Susanna in the mid-80s, and I was definitely the only woman in the room. And a comment when I walked into the room was, are you the assistant, or are you the administrator, or at the best, are you the comms person here today? But today, when I walk into the room, there are in defense and security, I would say that we are almost equal when it comes to numbers between women and men. And I'm so happy to see that many girls have taken the opportunity to be part of the tech industry. and that they have been given the opportunity, but also that they want to be part of it. In the introduction, it was mentioned that it would be almost 270 years from now until we have true equality. But I can say in my experience that within the years, almost 40 years that I have been in tech, so much has happened. So I believe that we have to understand that the change requires time, but also that you can see that things are happening and that girls and women are much more involved and taking the opportunity in our sector. Thank you.
And Kristen, as you said, changes requires time, but things are happening. Now it's time for a round of questions in which our panelists will have 3 minutes to answer. So let's start with Susanna. You have experience, as you said, working with several startups in Sweden in technology sectors and video games companies. Can you share with us your views on the growth on the industry, as well how you think women can find empowerment in this area?
Yes, sure. And I want to start by saying when I talked to the Swedish Game Association a little bit before this event, and they wanted me to report back because they are really inspired by what Colombia and the Colombian government are doing for the creative and cultural industries. So they said that we can learn a lot from what's happening over there. But just to give a little bit of context, every eighth person in the world has played a game that has been developed by a Swede. And the industry is now worth about 2.3 billion euros. So I talked about when I joined in 2004, it was not like that at all. Tons of companies were going bankrupt, etc. So a lot has happened along the way. And I think one of the ways that the industry has been able to grow so tremendously is, again, being able to look a little bit outside of what was the norm. And the norm back then it was all men starting computer games companies and they all hired their friends. So once the industry started maturing a little bit and they realized that they had to look a little bit outside of their own bubbles, that's when the growth started to happen. So my message to companies is there is a tremendous business opportunity here in terms of being able to create product development, innovate for a global market, to be able to compete on a global market, not just in terms of your own services and products, but also in terms of talent. And so that, we can see it in the numbers in the games industry, but also in several reports that are out there. And I think that it's, tech is everywhere. It's not just confined to a certain area of the population and society. Tech is permeating every single facet of our lives. So of course, women have to be a part of building that future because we are also going to be living in that future from now on. So there's both the profitability and opportunity part of this, but also in terms of what kind of society do we want to live in. And so I work, for instance, with several startups that are doing incredibly interesting things on the AI side, on product development side, developing new ecosystem inside existing ecosystem, tons of female founders. And, as an investor, like I said, I have a unique selling point in the sense that a lot of these exciting female founders actually reach out to me before they would reach out maybe to a male counterpart because they feel like they can relate to me. So I've completely made this my own selling point. And so I think I've overinvested in a lot of female startups, but at the same time, we know that female startups still get very little of the capital now. But the capital is also starting to understand that there's untapped potential here. And women are building not just companies, but also products and services that are tapping into a market that is untapped. And so there's a huge business opportunity here. And so the main thing I want to send away is of course, we have to be a part of creating the future that we want to create. And tech is going to be such a big part of that we have to make sure that we have the equal balance there.
Susanna, part of creating the future we want is that we have to be conscious gender equality is a necessity. Thank you. Now we have to talk about Kristen experience again. Well, and Kristen, you work in a sector I can imagine must be pretty unusual in terms of the presence of women within it. And in the company you work in, Saab Aeronautics, and they have a sustainability strategy that incorporates sustainable development goals within its corporate structure, including the gender equality strategies. What methods does Sabat use to achieve the gender equality, and what gender equality methods are being implemented in the defense sector in Sweden?
Thank you. A very good question, and I'm happy to share some of my experience over the years. And as our minister said, we have from a government level in Sweden worked with targets on equality and on participation of women in all sectors. And being part of a company, you probably realize that what is set as a target on a manager is very often delivered. So we, at an early stage, we set targets on our organization and our managers that you should have a certain number, a certain percentage within your organization of female engineers or female managers. And over the years, we've added that number. So we're looking at higher levels every year, and that has worked out very well for us. We also realized when we did this that we had more male applicants to top positions. And we started thinking, why is that? Well, why don't we see the women taking the opportunity? Why are they not asking to be part of the top management teams? And then we realized that we had to address our people, our employees in a different way, because we were writing our open positions in a male way. We were using a male language. So we started to write in using different words, addressing, really looking, targeting to find our female employees. And then we realized that we got more applicants from our female employees when we used certain words and didn't specifically go into words like you are number one, or you are very, you can work long hours and things like that. So we used another language. And we also said to our managers that every time you have an open position, even though you don't have a female applicant, you will have to find one. So and by doing that, addressing and looking for potentials within women, we could see that we could find women that said, okay, maybe this wasn't a position that I was applying for, but when you describe it to me, I'm interested and I would like to apply for the position. So by using ways of recruiting, different ways of recruiting, we've actually added on a number of female managers and in top positions. We also learned that you have to broaden the base. It's not only about creating opportunities and finding women for top positions. So we've been very active at universities, seeking female engineers and addressing them. People to people, we've had employees from our company going into the campus to talk to female engineers to say, why don't you look for a position in tech? And thus we have been able to have a higher number of new applicants for positions in the younger years, and thus we can have a better position to have to find females in top positions. We've also, within Sweden, in the way that the minister described, we've invested quite a lot in networks in the same way that you described. We've made special awards. We've had the Swedish sort of Wall Street paper having a special feature on top positions, top careers in Sweden every year, and you get a front page and quite a lot of publication to show as a good example. Showing good examples, we find, have been a very good way of getting more girls and women interested in top positions.
Well, and Kristen, let me highlight this. Language is a key to empower women and we have to work in low positions because it's fundamental, not also in the top ones. Thank you so much for your intervention. Now it's time to William. What is your experience of working in a male-dominated industry? How do you see this issue from a gender perspective, and how can be done to improve the work environment for women in these sectors?
I'll probably start by challenging that there is any male domination in reality, right? Behind the scenes, you girls around the world. And it is sometimes behind the scenes. I guess we do have some inequality in terms of numbers. And we do have some differences in the way that we even think and act and support any industry. I would say that in terms of intelligence, there is basically no difference between male and female. In terms of population, very, very little difference. Actually, women are a little bit more than men. So whatever differences are there are in favor of women. What we find in the work environment is that women are they're much more keen into detail than men. However, they can grasp so many variables at the same time that men are incapable of doing that. On the other hand, also, women have a much better sense of aesthetics than men. We know as a fact in the software industry that a computer screen designed by a girl is prettier than a computer screen designed by a guy, which is only in favor of women. So if we had more women to hire, we would definitely do so, as we prefer women in the tech industry, without a doubt. Now, but the problem is actually in numbers, nor in equality or inequality. The thing is that about 35% of women actually of engineers are women and 65 are men. And when you go to the work environment, it's the exact same proportion, which means that there is no such a thing as the companies not wanting to hire women. They hire as many as are available because the numbers at the university reflects the number at work. They're the same numbers. So it's not that women are studying engineer and they're not finding a job. No, they are. As I said before, every girl that studies engineer has a guaranteed job in this world right now because of the digital revolution. And that's going to continue to happen for a long, long time. So the problem doesn't start at the job selection, or it doesn't start even at the career selection at the university or the number of graduates. I think the problem starts in kindergarten, where but socially women are more keen to go into non-STEM professions. And if we were able to get girls to go into STEM at kindergarten and primary school, we'll definitely get more people interested, more women interested into engineering careers, and then so on and so on. Companies would hire more women. So I think it has to do with the scarcity, but it also, the good news is that opportunity is almost unlimited right now. So we need to push STEM education from the very, very beginning. And that would actually solve the problem.
Thank you, William. And now it's time to Catalina. Well, you work for the Swedish company Ericsson, and you have also worked for another Swedish company before Ericsson, and also you're Colombian. So you have a vision of both worlds, the Latin American one and the Sweden one. So based on this, how do you think the private sector in Latin America can take the initiative to promote greater participation of women in leadership positions within technologies companies?
Yes, Paola, let's see some hard data. I have worked in technology for the last 8 years, and I have been very lucky that I started in a Swedish company in Colombia, and now I work for Ericsson in Mexico. I'm actually living in Mexico. Two companies that had, of course, in their DNA diversity and inclusion as part of their Swedish core values. I am happy to see that right now the hiring of women and administrative and IT position has increased by 80% in the past years, according to a LinkedIn study in Colombia, although the way forward for equal pay is still very long. A report prepared by International Labor Organization shows that 57% of the companies surveyed not only increased their profits by having women in executive positions, but also noted a more significant attraction and retention talent as well, an improvement in creativity, innovation, and openness. Also, McKinsey shared with us a study that indicates that companies with greater gender diversity are 25% more likely to achieve superior profitability. This shows an amazing opportunity in the business. And also in Colombia, La Silla Vacía analyzed the 75 largest companies in terms of revenue, and they found out that of 437 board members in this year, only 16% are women. This number matters and matters a lot because on the boards are the strategic decisions made and in the business. And that's why in Ericsson, a quarter of the board of directors are women. We aimed for 2020 last year to increase female representation to 30% across the organization, across the whole world. And while we exceeded regarding the executive population, that is now 32%, so that for us is really good, 32% of female, the overall representation remains at 25% for last year. And right now, the company is working on closing this 5% by creating programs to develop young talents or following very closely the hiring process to certify that at least one woman is always included in the candidate, as Ana Cris also shared they do in SAP. And also looking into the future, the Connect to Learn program is one of the specific ways Ericsson works to support the education of girls. A program that works in schools in the regions to motivate girls and boys, not only girls, but also boys, to study STEM subjects. This program has been successfully implemented in 25 countries to date, including countries in Latin America. To increase the participation of women in industry, it's important that girls are invited to explore, play, to create with technology from an early age, as William highlighted. That is why this program is so important for us, and that's why we, as Ericsson, try to be involved in the education of our kids and the future of our employees.
Catalina, thank you so much. This discussion has been fascinating, but we are running out of time. So in only 1 minute, I would like each of you to please close with a reflection or an invitation addressed to the Colombian women who follow this event on Facebook Live. Let's start with Susana.
I changed mine over the course of this event, which was very interesting. I want to say, if you don't feel represented in your idea of what an engineer or what a tech person does, then remember that you're going to be a part of creating what the future tech person is. So it's not about fitting into a specific mold. It's about taking your skills, your specific USPs, everything that you have to offer, and put it into tech rather than you becoming what you think tech is expecting of you. So that would be what I'll try to, and also try and find some really interesting role models in tech, because there's a lot of really cool things happening now.
Susana, thank you so much. Now it's time to end. Kristen.
I would like to say to all the women out there that my experience is that we sometimes have a lower self-esteem. We're not as self-confident as men. So my advice to everyone is that we are just as good as the boys.
And Kristen, thank you. William, you have the word.
As good or probably better, I would say, and Kristen. Well, I guess two things. One, for girls to actually go into technology. There are jobs in technology. And as I said before, whoever studies tech right now will definitely have a guaranteed job. And for the governments, actually, to invest in little kids. We need more people into STEM careers, both girls and boys, and that would definitely develop the whole industry much better. And as I said, as many girls as are available, we will.
William, thank you so much. Catalina, we would like to hear your reflection too.
And I would like to close this panel with 3 ideas and 1 advice. The first, we have to eradicate cultural stereotypes. I think it's super important to do that. The second, we need to promote the learning of technology from an early age. And the third one will be, and I think it's important to make visible the reference that serve as inspiration. And an advice, don't be afraid, the women out there, the people that are studying STEM careers, don't be afraid to present yourself to the jobs, to the openings that you see in the market. You will be amazed to see that you can actually fit in this sector. And with this, we can promote the female presence in the IT environment and push to create a society that has inclusion and diversity as a core. That's my closing remarks.
Catalina, William, and Kristen, and Susana, thank you so much. And as a reflection, a tremendous opportunity to growth in economy area is to work jointly in gender equality. Well, many thanks to our panelists and admirable women and men who leaves us these reflections today. In this way, we end this event. Thank you so much for the audience in Facebook Live, to all the viewers for being here connected. Until the next time.